running backs. So your top five.
Yeah, so Christian McCaffrey himself is number one. And then I got Saquon Barkley, Austin Eckler, Dalvin Cook, and Travis Etienne.
Yep, I got McCaffrey, Eckler two, Barkley, Cook, Etienne. So pretty much the same top five. Who you hiring?
So I'm high on Leonard Fournette. I mean, he's playoff Lenny for a reason, right? And last week he only played 3 snaps, so he's been dealing with a ton of injuries, especially apparently a Liz Frank injury. So getting a semi week off will certainly help him be fresh for this matchup. And Dallas has a really good secondary, but they have they rank 21st in DVOA against running backs. So I think one way the Buccaneers can move the ball with through as opposed to running the ball would be dump offs to Leonard Fournette. So I think he has so a pretty big receiving upside here. Plus, they'll probably lean on more as a runner. Just like I said, it's the playoffs, so maybe Rachaad White sees a downtick in usage just because he's a rookie. So I could see them leaning on Fournette pretty heavily here. So like him, he's my RB8 to open up the weekend. The consensus has him RB14, so I'm 6 slots higher. And the other guy's a little bit more under the radar, but it's JaMychal Hasty against the Chargers. He's my RB17. Consensus has him RB23, but he's been eating into Travis Etienne's receiving usage quite a bit the past 2 weeks. So he's typically averaging around a 35% routes run rate. So he's a good bet for 2 or 3 receptions based on that usage, possibly more if the Jags do get into a trailing game script. This game could turn into a shootout. So plus he'll probably only see a handful of carries, but against this Chargers rush defense, he could pop one for a big gain. So I think if anything, he's probably just a sneaky play for GPPs on these smaller slates. But I do like Hasty compared to the consensus right now.
I mean, over under amount of times Travis Etienne limps back to the sideline, like 3.5.
Oh God.
I
Hopefully
feel like
under.
he's like he's like every game it just seems like he just gets hit in like some awkward way. And he's kind of, I don't know, he's like a very slim guy. He's pretty in shape. So it's like it always looks worse than it ends up being because he always ends up coming back in the game. But yeah, man, you could see a few carries for Hasty just based on the way ETN seems to get hit.
Yeah.
True. Yeah, I'm high on Jeff Wilson Jr. here. And it looks like Raheem Mostert might miss this game against the Bills with a broken thumb. And a few weeks ago, when these two teams faced off, the Bills gave up over 200 scrimmage yards to the Dolphins backfield. It was 181 on the ground, another 27 through the air, excuse me. So, the Dolphins, they're probably going to, even if Tua plays, which I don't know if that's going to happen, but the Dolphins are going to have to kind of shorten the game. They're not going to be able to fully rely on just throwing it around. I don't think it. So I do think they're going to have to rely on their ground game. And Wilson, he was already beating out Mostert these last couple of weeks in snaps. So if Mostert's out, I think that's a big boost for him. But either way, I think Wilson's going to be a little bit slept on. Obviously, the game script's not ideal, but Wilson can catch some passes out of the backfield as well. So like him. All right, who are you low on?
Yeah, so I'm going to just segue from that. I'm low on Raheem Mostert.
Yeah.
And it seems like a cheap shot because he might miss the game due to his broken thumb. But I think since it's the playoffs, he does gut it out and play. And he could even get the start. Who knows? But I'm guessing it's going to severely limit his usage on passing down. So in a game where they're 10-point underdogs, that's certainly going to come into play. I think that he's not going to be able to pass block as good, certainly catch passes. So it might be one of those situations where he ends up suiting up, but I would avoid him completely just based on his thumb injury. And the other guy is in the same game, James Cook. I have him as my RB15. The consensus is RB10. This is one of those spots where they could just lean on Devin Singletary a bit more. I know Cook has outplayed Singletary the past few weeks or pretty much all season, but they probably want to lean on the veteran for the first round of the playoffs at least. Plus the Dolphins play the second most man coverage, and Cook, as like most running backs, don't get as much usage against man. He averages 0.68 yards per route run against man. That goes up to 1.93 versus zone. So it's not a good matchup for him in the passing game. And this could be a game where Josh Allen just decides to scramble a lot more, especially against man coverage. So while I do like, Cook's upside probably in the later rounds, I think this opening round, they'll probably lean on Singletary a bit more.
And maybe, who knows? Maybe Naeem Hines earned himself an extra couple snaps
Oh yeah, no
with those
kidding. Yeah, no
explosive
kidding.
kick returns there. So you never know. I mean, in the playoffs, I
Yeah,
know one thing I do know is they trust Singletary a lot. Like they really, he's like a very
yeah.
trusted. That's why even though he fumbles all the time, they always go back to him. So yeah, I mean,
Right.
it could be one of those weird things because I know McDermott's never been big on rookies. So like Shakir is another guy to watch out for. Some of these rookies may actually see a
Yep.
dip in playing time. As we get into the playoffs. But for me, it's Joe Mixon. He's the ECR number 5 running back. I think he should be outside the top 5 this week. This Baltimore run D is very, very good. They're number 7 in run D DVOA, and we just saw Mixon kind of bailed himself out with 5 catches for 41 yards, but on the ground only 11 for 27 and a touchdown against that Baltimore defense. It's just really tough to run against them. So I'm not expecting monster game. Especially when there's other guys on the slate like Etienne and who have better matchups. Dalvin Cook. So I don't. Mixon is not a top 5 back for me this week. All right, what are we doing for the prop?
Well, you already threw out a Travis Etienne prop a number of times. He gets limps to the sideline. Let's just go with a more natural prop here. Let's go with rushing yards against the Chargers. He was brutal last week against a very good run defense, but this is a much easier matchup for him. So I'm going to set the line at 64.5. Are you over or under that?
I'm over because the Chargers, they're good for giving, like you said, they're good for giving up explosive run plays. And Etienne, I mean, they're going to lean on him. I mean, they've shown it. Even against like pretty much everyone, as long as he's been healthy, he's been in and taking most of the snaps. I know in that one game against Houston where they were blowing him out, that's the only time he kind of gave up snaps to Connor. Connor and Hasty. But I think Etienne is going to have, I think they're going to lean on Etienne and he's going to have a big game. So
yeah,
I'm over.